Hello everyone. I'm back again to tell you a story during our summer program. Today I have a story about two frogs. Let me come around and introduce them to you. This is the frog from Osaka. You may not know where Osaka is, but I'll tell you in just a couple of minutes. And here's another frog. This is the frog from Kyoto. You also may not know where Kyoto is. I'll tell you just a minute. Now, before I tell you the story, we have to set the mood for frogs. We have to have some music. And I looked for a frog song, and I found one. It doesn't really have anything to do with the story, but it's about a frog, and it's one you may know. Frog Went A-Courting. I won't try to sing it, but I'll play a few verses on my trumpet. Frogs are from a country far away, the country of Japan. We have to travel far to the east from the United States, across the great Pacific Ocean to get to Japan. Japan is an island country. It's surrounded by water, and it's made up of 4 main islands. The biggest island is one where the capital city, Tokyo, stands, and also the city of Osaka and Kyoto. Osaka is on the coast. It's in the southwest part of the island, down by the ocean. And the Osaka Frog lives in a ditch, a nice, wet, moist ditch somewhere outside of the city. The Kyoto Frog lives in Kyoto, which is about 35 miles to the north, and it's known because there is the palace of the great Mikado. When Japan had a great royal emperor called the Mikado, that's where his palace is. And outside the city of Kyoto is a wonderful creek, on the side of which lives the frog from Kyoto. Now, I also found you a Japanese song, a children's song. Unfortunately, it has nothing to do with frogs, but it's from Japan. It's called, in English, A Rolling Acorn. So, to help us travel to Japan, let's hear a Japanese song. now we've gotten to Japan. It was a quick journey to go so many thousands of miles across the great continent of North America and across the Pacific Ocean to the islands that comprised Japan. Now, the Osaka Frog lived all his life in a ditch in Osaka. And he hardly ever left the ditch. And after many years, he thought, I would be interested to see more of my country. I've heard about the city Kyoto to the north, where the great Mikado lives. I shall go on a journey. Well, the frog from Kyoto, remarkably, quite independently and separately, but on the very same day thought, I've lived by this creek in Kyoto all my life, and I've never seen anything else of my country. I should like to go on a journey. I will go to Osaka, and then I can see the sea. I can see the great ocean and the waves. I can go to the beach. So on the same day, not knowing of each other, at the same time, the Osaka Frog set off for Kyoto, and the Kyoto Frog set off for Osaka. Now, how does a frog travel? He doesn't hike with legs as such. He doesn't ride a bicycle. He doesn't go in a car or train. He hops. He hops. Oh, you have to get down and hop. And hop. Oh, and hop. That's something you can do after the story. Or even if you get bored during the story, you can hop. Now, how far do you think a frog hops with one hop? Well, I think a very generous calculation would be an average of 1 foot. So much. Now, how far is it from Osaka to Kyoto and Kyoto to Osaka? It's 35 miles. Now, for we as people, 35 miles is not an enormous distance. If you want to go on a hike and keep up a good clip of 3.5 miles an hour, it will only take you 10 hours. Well, you do have to rest in between and you will slow down. So let's say give yourself 2 days for a very ambitious hike. And if you want to make it less, give yourself 3 days. If you go by bicycle, it's really less than a day's journey by bicycle. Even I used to be able to go 35 miles a day on my bike. I even went 40 or 45 once. I was very tired at the end of the day. But you can just do it, and it's a real easy trip if you overnight on the way and take two days by bike. And what about by car? 35 miles nowadays is nothing in a car. You get in the car, start the engine, step on the gas pedal, and you're there in 1 hour. And if traffic is light, maybe even sooner. For a frog, 1 mile is 5,280 feet. That's 5,280 hops for 1 mile. And if you're going to go 35 miles, well, after the story, you sit down and work it out. It's going to be over 18,000 hops. Just try hopping from your living room to the kitchen, and from the kitchen to your bedroom. Oh, that's a lot of hopping. Now hop out your door and hop over to the playground down the street. Oh, you're already exhausted. And hop to the grocery store. I bet you can't do it. Well, you can try. So the Osaka Frog sets off for Kyoto. Kyoto Frog sets off for Osaka, hopping, hop by hop, foot by foot, mile by mile. And just at the halfway point, between these two cities is an enormous hill. You'd even might call it a mountain. And this going is very, very, very slow, hopping up the mountain foot by foot after so many days of a long journey. And believe it or not, at the top of the mountain, at the very same time, on the very same day, the Osaka Frog arrived on his way to Kyoto, and the Kyoto Frog arrived on his way to Osaka. And there they stood, just like they are on my music stand. They stood looking at each other, and they were so amazed. They were speechless. For whatever a frog says, frogs have a good way of croaking. So after they stared at each other, they started to talk, and each one told his story. How he had spent his life in Osaka and wanted to see the great city of Kyoto by the sea, where the Mikado lives, in the great city of Kyoto. And the Kyoto Frog said how he'd spent his whole life in Kyoto and wanted to go down to the ocean and the beach at Osaka. Well, now they were friends, and they were tired. So you know what frogs do when they're tired? They find a nice, shady, moist, damp, watery place, and they hunker down. They hunker down and rest. Oh, yeah. And after a rest, and the dampness and freshness of the water, they were refreshed. And they were getting ready to start on the way, when they took notice and shared with each other that they really were on a great mountain with a very good lookout, looking north to Kyoto and looking south to Osaka. And the one frog said to the other, "Oh, only if we could stretch up, only if we could stand up tall and straight and look ahead. I could see Kyoto," said the Osaka Frog. "And I could see Osaka," said the Kyoto Frog. And they would know where they were going to. Well, how are frogs going to stand up straight? It's not very easy. Well, I found a picture. It's called the dancing frogs. But can you see, if they stretch up and they put their hands on each other's shoulders, they can really raise themselves off the ground quite up high. And here's another one. Here's another one of the dancing frogs. Look how tall and straight they are. Look how they can see around them. That's what frogs can do when they really want to. So the Osaka Frog and the Kyoto Frog stood up and supported each other's on the other's shoulders. And they started put their heads high to look ahead. But there is something peculiar about a frog's eyes. If you study these pictures, I think both of them show it. The frog's eyes are way to the back of their head. You can also see it in this picture, how the frog's eyes are way back in their head. And you even can do that yourself a bit, even though your eyes are not in the back of your head. If you put your head way up high, well, I don't see in front of me. I see the ceiling. Try it. Put your head way up high. You can't see in front of you. You can see the ceiling. And when a frog puts its head way up high, do you know what happens? The frog doesn't see in front of him. He sees what's behind him. So when the Osaka Frog stood up straight and put his head way up high to look at Kyoto, he saw Osaka. And when the Osaka Frog put his hands on the shoulder of the Kyoto Frog and looked way ahead to Kyoto, did I get this right? He saw Osaka. What? In any case, the Osaka Frog saw Osaka, not Kyoto. And the Kyoto Frog saw Kyoto, not Osaka. And when they were tired holding each other, they let themselves come down. And the Osaka Frog said, "It's amazing. Kyoto is identical to my hometown of Osaka. It looks exactly the same. There's really no difference. I shouldn't have to make such a great journey. There's nothing new to see. I should rather apply my energy to getting home. Maybe I can get home on time for dinner." And the Kyoto Frog said the same. He said, "Why shall I travel all the way to Osaka? It looks exactly the same as Kyoto. It's the same in every detail. There's no need for me to exert myself to go to Osaka. I'd rather go home to Kyoto because the two cities are exactly the same." And so the Kyoto Frog turned around and hopped home. And the Osaka Frog turned around and he hopped home. Now I tell you this, Kyoto is very different from Osaka. And Osaka is very different from Kyoto. But that's not what the frogs thought. And when the Osaka Frog came home to his ditch, he was very, very content. And he had no wish or need or urge to travel for all the rest of his livelong days. And when the Kyoto Frog returned to his creek outside of Kyoto, he was very satisfied. He had no need to travel anywhere, and he stayed in Kyoto for all his livelong days, for the whole rest of his life. So my friends, enjoy hopping. You practice going from the living room to the kitchen, from the kitchen to your bedroom, from your bedroom to the playground, from the playground to the grocery store, and so on. And then try to stand up straight and look ahead. And you may, if you bend back far enough, see from where you came. Now let's have the froggy song again, and the Japanese song again to round off our story. Here's the Japanese song, A Rolling Acorn. Say goodbye to our frogs, I'll play the froggy song one more time. story of two frogs. I hope you try out some hopping to see what it's like to travel the way a frog does. And I hope you'll see some new things, but also be content with all the wonderful things near and close to home. Have a great summer. Bye-bye.